In the divine realm, many gods and goddesses had gathered for a rare promotion event. The difficulty of the promotion mission would be S rank, and the lucky deity chosen for this mission was none other than the healing goddess Rista. Amid the cheers of the other deities, Rista merely smiled politely, promising she would try her best to accumulate enough experience to pass the test. But as soon as the ceremony ended, she rushed straight home. Rista leaned against her door and slumped down, her face pale. What a joke to assign her an S-rank mission. To explain more about this place, this was the upper realm, and Rista had been born here over 100 years ago. Her job up until now had been to summon heroes to save worlds in danger, and so far, she had done this 5 times. For other deities, 5 times wasn't many. Average gods had already done it more than 10 times, while veteran deities had saved over 100 worlds, and now she had an S-rank mission. Rista had never witnessed one before, only heard about them worlds so desperate that even the veteran gods found them daunting. How was she supposed to handle this? Rista felt utterly dejected. Quickly pulling herself together, she sat at her desk. Rista decided to choose a young man from Japan as her hero, since the isekai trend was currently popular there, making it easier to explain things to him. She began flipping through documents, looking at candidate after candidate, but despite the abundance of options, no one seemed quite right. Frustrated, she flipped her desk over and collapsed on the floor. Just then, an information sheet floated down onto her face. It contained the personal details of a young man named Seiya. Just reading through it briefly impressed Rista tremendously. Despite being only level 1, his stats were extraordinarily high. Rista's eyes lit up. Seiya was 1 in 100 million. With someone like him, she would soon be promoted to a great goddess. Rista immediately began preparing the summoning ritual. After a flash of light, Seiya appeared before Rista. His appearance made her heart skip a beat. What was this? How could this man be so handsome? With his jet black hair and perfect height, Rista almost started drooling. Then she remembered that love between gods and humans was forbidden, so she had to maintain her divine composure. She explained to Seiya why he had been summoned, trying her best to speak in the most elegant and ladylike manner possible. Yet somehow, Seiya thought she was just a crazy woman talking nonsense. If Rista was truly a goddess, he argued, she should be perfectly capable of saving the world herself. Regarding this matter, Rista wished she could, but it wasn't allowed. The gods created worlds for humans to live in, and if something happened to those worlds, it had to be humans themselves who saved them. Hearing this, Seiya nodded, beginning to understand. Then he asked about his special skills and privileges. Rista taught him how to open his status window, and when she looked at it, she exclaimed that Seiya's stats were much higher than those of ordinary heroes. That's why Seiya was the only one who could save this world. She would tell him more details later. Rista turned around to open a transfer portal and invited Seiya to follow her. Seiya immediately refused. He wasn't about to enter a dangerous world without weapons or preparations. No way. Rista tried to persuade him, saying his stats were higher than normal and that she would be there to help him. He certainly wouldn't die. Seiya pinned Rista against the wall, pointing out that she was merely a supporting character while he had to do all the work. If he was forced to save this world, he needed time to prepare first. With that, Seiya took off his shirt and began doing push-ups, leaving Rista staring in shock. Now she remembered what was written on Seiya's information sheet. This guy had an extreme caution disorder. Rista went to find the ceiling goddess Arya to complain. Arya actually found Seiya's behavior reasonable, since the world Rista needed to save was an S-rank mission, and thorough preparation would be better. Arya then advised Rista that if Seiya was training and preparing, she should also take care of him, providing basics for living, such as food and a place to rest. Reminded by Arya, Rista rushed back with supplies to Seiya's room. Since he was Japanese, she prepared familiar foods for him, starting with rice balls. Rista offered Seiya the food, but he immediately refused, saying he would never eat food given by a stranger. Rista lost her temper and yelled at him, asking what reason she could possibly have to poison him. Seiya still didn't trust her and forced her to eat first to prove it wasn't poisoned. While Seiya ate, Rista conjured a bed, bathroom, and bathing area for him. Then she approached him with a bell, explaining that she would give him time to prepare. She would provide 3 meals a day, leaving them outside his door, and she promised not to disturb him. When he was ready, he should ring the bell, and then they would begin their journey to save the world. At first, Rista thought Seiya would train for at most 3 days, but by the 4th day, there was still no bell sound. Worried that Seiya might have died, she went to check, but seeing the food was gone, she knew he was fine. She had to wait another week, and by then she was thoroughly bored. As she was sprawled on the floor, the bell finally rang. Rista rushed to check on Saya, who showed her his status. Just a glance made Rista's eyes bulge. She couldn't believe that through physical training alone, Saya had leveled up dramatically and even gained special skills. Saya had planned to reach max level before going to save the world, but seeing how pitiful Rista looked, he decided to start the journey now. Rista opened a portal and pulled Saya through. They teleported to a verdant prairie. Rista pointed to a distant town called Adona, explaining they needed to get equipment for Saya first. As the two walked through town, an old man greeted them. Rista cheerfully responded, but Saya remained cautious, analyzing whether the old man might be a shape-shifting monster or criminal to suddenly greet them like that. Just then, a little girl also greeted them. After introducing herself as Nina, she showed Rista the weapons shop. Before entering, Rista gave Saya a bag of money, a gift she had prepared for him. With this much money, Saya could be fully equipped to the teeth. Once inside, after looking around, Saya immediately grabbed 3 sets of armor, startling Rista, who quickly took back the money bag. There was no need for so many sets, she said, and chose armor for Saya herself. After the armor was selected, Saya took back the money bag and rushed to the general store, buying all the smoke bombs and herbs he could. He explained to Rista that since they didn't know what kind of monsters they would face, he had to be thoroughly prepared. Rista was exasperated and shouted at Saya that she was his guide, and she had said this place was safe with no monsters, so he didn't need to be so excessively cautious. Little Nina also chimed in, telling them that only slimes lived here. Seeing that Saya seemed afraid of monsters, Nina gave him a charm. With their equipment fully prepared, it was time to hunt monsters. Rista led Saya out to the prairie, but Saya had no desire to look for trouble. Just then, a slime appeared. Saya immediately hid in a corner to observe and analyze the slime, making Rista sigh. She told him that even children could kill slimes like this. As soon as she finished speaking, Saya drew his sword and slashed at the slime. The devastating blow caused a huge explosion, but Saya didn't stop there. Believing the slime was still alive, he launched countless more attacks. After attacking to his heart's content, Saya finally stopped. Rista then asked if he felt more confident now, and if so, they could move on to the next town. Just then, a powerful force approached, frightening Rista. A voluptuous, horned woman stepped forward and introduced herself as Machina, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon Lord's army, who had come to eliminate the newly arrived hero. Machina knew exactly what Rista had done. Normally, when a hero was summoned, there would be a sign, and Rista would surely choose an easy starting location for the hero to level up. Machina simply had to stand there and wait for them to arrive. Rista broke out in a cold sweat as she checked Machina's stats level 66. This was bad, they needed to flee. But before she could warn Saya, he had already bolted away. Rista, bewildered, could only curse and chase after him. This was the first time she'd seen a hero flee even before the goddess. Rista ran full speed after Saya. Suddenly, he stopped, threw a barrage of smoke bombs, and grabbed Rista, jumping aside narrowly, avoiding Machina's attack. The two continued running, with Saya telling Rista they needed to retreat. She understood and created a portal back to the divine realm. Very quickly, Machina caught up right behind Rista. At that moment, Saya threw his backpack in her face, then used his Hellfire skill to burn her. It didn't cause any damage, of course, but it created an opportunity for him to grab Rista and jump through the portal. Despite letting her prey escape, Machina smiled brightly. It didn't matter, as she knew they would meet again soon. As soon as they teleported back to his room, Saya kicked Rista out, reminding her that from now on, he would continue training until he achieved his desired results. He wouldn't leave the room, so Rista should just go back and wait for the bell. 2 days later, Rista was still sitting in her room waiting impatiently. She couldn't just sit idle like this anymore, so she went to find the goddess area to borrow her crystal ball. Rista cast a spell to observe the other world, and immediately Machina's face pressed close to the screen, startling her. Machina knew perfectly well that Rista was watching this world from the divine realm, and had prepared a way to lure her and Saya out. Machina kicked a man on the ground, announcing that from now on, she would kill 1 villager every 10 minutes. If they didn't want her to massacre the entire village, they should get their butts over there quickly. Rista frantically ran to tell Saya, informing him that the village was in danger and asking him to rescue it immediately. Saya, of course, refused, saying he wasn't adequately prepared yet. Rista reprimanded him, saying this wasn't how a hero should act. A true hero would rush to help people in danger. By then, 10 minutes had passed. Machina spoke through the crystal ball, saying the next person she would kill was Nina's father. Rista panicked and tried to persuade Saya to go there immediately, but Saya ignored her and continued doing squats. This angered Rista, who was about to open a portal and go alone when Saya stopped her. As Rista had previously explained, time flowed differently between the divine realm and the other world, so they still had time to save the villagers, no need to rush. Rista understood this, but the next person Machina had chosen was already Nina's father. Were they just going to watch him die? Saya continued exercising while Rista pleaded with all her might. She knew Saya was afraid of dying, but so what? If Saya died, he would return to his original world. But when the villagers died, they were gone forever with no way to bring them back. Saya kept doing squats without saying anything. By now, Rista was truly out of options. Neither harsh nor gentle words worked. She felt she had made a terrible mistake in summoning Saya. He was truly a cowardly hero. Rista started crying and was about to leave when Saya finally spoke. He explained that he had perfectly valid reasons for his actions. If he died now, the town would die too, and eventually the entire world would follow. So he had to prepare thoroughly to be strong enough to win every battle. Rista turned back in surprise to see Saya already wearing his armor. Had he finished his preparations? Rista quickly used her eyes to check, and indeed it was true. She couldn't believe it. In just 2 days, Saya's level had skyrocketed. Now he was strong enough to face Machina. Rista excitedly wanted to open a portal directly to the town to save everyone. But as soon as she suggested this, Saya punched the stupid goddess in the head. If they appeared in the town now, Nina and her father would certainly die before they could save them. So they needed to open the portal a bit farther away. In the town, Machina sat yawning, feeling that 10 minutes was too long. She decided to reduce the execution time to 5 minutes. Just as she raised her blade to strike, Saya appeared. He sent a sword energy wave that Machina dodged, and she laughed loudly, mocking Saya. What kind of hero would sneak attack and miss so badly at that? Saya didn't care much because from the beginning, his target wasn't her but Nina and her father. Once rescued by Saya, they quickly escaped. Machina checked Saya's information and was shocked at how much his stats had increased in such a short time. This wasn't good. She decided to get serious. Machina flexed her muscles, transforming into a hulking figure, then charged at Saya. Saya only blocked her attacks and maintained his distance. Despite her transformation, Saya could still match her speed. This was truly bad. She had to use her final trump card. Sensing something was wrong, Rista shouted for Saya to be careful. Machina laughed maniacally, telling Saya that a true warrior always kept an ace up their sleeve. With that, she stabbed herself with her blade. From her stomach, something strange began to tear through and emerge. Rista turned purple with fear, so this was Machina's true form. Looking at her stats now, they were even more terrifying, even exceeding those of a demon lord in a D-rank world. Having completed her transformation, Machina began taunting Saya. Had he seen what power beyond his comprehension looked like? She declared she would defeat Saya in one blow, then charged at him. Rista burst into tears, apologizing for making Saya face such a powerful opponent. When the dust cleared, somehow Saya had blocked the attack. Rista immediately understood the situation. There was only one possible explanation. Saya's stats were much higher than Machina's. She tried to use her skill to see through Saya's information, which he had hidden. Rista refused to give up, using all her strength to look until her eyes nearly popped out. She was astonished to find that Saya's stats were 10 times higher than what she had seen before. Rista began analyzing what she had witnessed. From the moment Saya arrived in this world, he had concealed his true stats. When he first met Machina, he could have defeated her immediately but chose to return and train more. Just how cautious was this guy? Rista couldn't even imagine. Machina flew into the air, preparing to launch another attack. In the blink of an eye, Saya appeared before her, making Machina break out in a cold sweat. At this point, surrender was no longer an option. Saya drew his blade, channeled fire into his weapon, and sliced Machina to pieces instantly. After Saya landed, Rista ran up to scold him for hiding his true strength from his teammate. Saya looked at Rista with contempt, saying he wanted to tell her, but if Rista could see his stats, so could the enemy. Besides, with Rista's pig brain, she would definitely leak the information, so it was better to be cautious from the beginning. The townspeople gathered around to thank Saya for saving them and invited him to a celebration feast. Saya ignored them, grabbed a broom, and began sweeping, to everyone's confusion. After sweeping up Machina's remains, Saya began burning them with fire not just once, but countless times. Saya burned them until he felt it was enough. burning so thoroughly that the town also turned to ashes, resulting in Rista and Saya being expelled from there. Nina and her father ran after them to thank Saya. The father had nothing but a little spare change to repay him for saving their lives. Saya took it without hesitation and even demanded more from him, embarrassing Rista, who hastily bid farewell to the father and daughter and dragged Saya away. After walking a bit further, Rista wanted to head to the next town, but Saya refused. He believed that after defeating one of the heavenly kings, the demon lord would send even stronger enemies, so he would return to the divine realm to train and prepare more thoroughly. Despite Rista's pleas and persuasion, Saya didn't care. He pointed at Rista's face and declared that she was completely useless and unhelpful, so she should open the portal and go back now. After returning to the divine realm, Rista went to complain to Arya again. That hero only knew how to work out, his head was filled with nothing but fitness. Hearing this, Arya laughed and advised Rista not to rush. After all, Saya couldn't train forever, so she should just be patient and wait. Rista was feeling quite urgent by now. She wanted to quickly complete this mission and be promoted to a great goddess like Arya. At this point, Arya shared her own story with Rista. She was a goddess who had saved 300 worlds but had failed to save one due to her own mistake. Rista quickly tried to console Arya, saying that out of 300 worlds, failing only one wasn't a big deal. But Arya didn't see it that way. It might not matter to them, but for the people of that world, it mattered a great deal. Arya was about to end her story and go make some tea when Saya suddenly burst in. Seeing Saya, Arya immediately approached to introduce herself and ask about his problem. Saya explained that no matter how many sit-ups or push-ups he did, his level wouldn't increase anymore. Rista's eyes lit up finally. This guy had reached his physical training limit, so she invited Saya to go kill monsters to level up. Saya immediately refused, saying fighting carried too many risks. He wanted another method that was safer and more effective. He'd heard Rista could create anything in the divine realm, so he wanted her to make some training equipment for him. Rista tried to persuade Saya that even if she created these things for him, he would eventually reach a limit, just as he had with physical training. So why not hunt monsters to both level up and gain combat experience? Wouldn't that be better? Seeing the two argue, Arya spoke up. She had an idea for Saya. If he didn't want to fight monsters, she could help him train with the gods in the divine realm. Rista quickly pulled Arya aside, pointing out that training humans was forbidden, and besides, neither of them was a combat deity, so how could they train Saya? Arya smiled and looked out the window, pointing to a very diligent deity in the distance. The god Arya mentioned was Cerseus, the god of swords. Arya approached him on everyone's behalf to ask for his help. Since Arya was a high-ranking goddess, Cerseus couldn't refuse, but he approached Saya with a warning. His training regime was extremely rigorous, and an ordinary person like Saya would struggle to keep up. Saya didn't want to waste time arguing and stepped onto the training field, ready to begin immediately. Both drew their swords, and Cerseus attacked first. Saya observed and blocked every move, impressing the god. After the first day ended, Rista, not wanting to make Saya uncomfortable with her presence, didn't go to the training ground. Instead, she wandered into the dining hall and met Cerseus. She took the opportunity to ask how Saya was doing. Cerseus was very impressed with Saya's performance, saying he was different from other heroes. He learned very quickly, though he still couldn't match the god's skill. On the second day, Rista met Cerseus in the dining hall again, but this time he was completely different. No longer confident like the day before, Cerseus was stuttering and sweating. He told Rista that there was something not right about Saya. He learned too fast. Rista wasn't too surprised and explained that Saya had a skill that boosted his experience points. On the third day, Rista went looking for Cerseus again. This time, he wasn't sitting in the middle of the dining hall, but was huddled in a corner. Sensing something was wrong, Rista approached to ask, but Cerseus said nothing and left. The fourth day arrived. Since she hadn't learned anything the day before, Rista specifically went to find Cerseus's favorite foods, hoping to learn more about Saya's progress. When she opened the door to get the food, somehow she found Cerseus hiding in a corner, looking terrified. Cerseus whispered in Rista's ear that the hero she was managing had gone mad. Even when he told Saya they had trained enough, Saya wouldn't let him go and forced him to continue training. Cerseus hadn't slept for days. "He's not a hero, he's an executioner, a super executioner," Cerseus screamed. Just as he finished speaking, Saya appeared before them, frightening both deities. Saya didn't want to waste more time and called Cerseus to continue training. Today, he wanted to increase the intensity of the training, making Cerseus scream in fear. He threw away his sword, but Saya still wouldn't let him go. Rista tried to stop Saya and